Yee Haw! It's time to kick off the Cotton Cuts Wild West Puzzle Mystery Quilt. Let's see what they sent in this fabulous box of treasures. I've already labeled my box. I am on Team Tumbleweed. So when you order the full quilt kit, all of your clues are here. So we've got a nice little welcome message. We have a flat Nancy who will make an appearance in all of the progress videos and pictures. And I believe that Cotton Cuts does a drawing if you share your flat Nancy pictures online. So look for those details on their website. We have the full color guide and tips and tricks sheet, so that is wonderful. They give us some block of the month patterns, and they're little coloring diagrams and the block patterns that you can make. These are just for fun. They don't have anything to do with the mystery quilt. There is an inventory sheet, so you make sure you have all the correct pieces in your kit for the version that you're doing. I am doing a small Wild West quilt. And then you have all your packages of clues. And I am just in love with Cotton Cuts because all of these pieces are pre-cut. So all I have to do is open up my package and start sewing. And look, clue one, they even included a notepad for us. So that is wonderful. Now, Cotton Cuts also supplies backing kits if you would like to purchase that, and they have oops kits. So if you need a little bit of extra fabric, if you made a mistake somewhere, go ahead and contact them. Let's get sewing. Hello to all of my True Blue crew. Fabulous news is I had been stocking the mailbox all week, and my Cotton Cuts package arrived for the Wild West Mystery Quilt. And this is a 10-month program from Cotton Cuts, and I am on Team Tumbleweed, and I've got this great range of blue fabrics. You know, that was the deciding factor for me. I had my top 3 choices were all the blue fabrics. But, you know, even that bright yellow collection that had a little bit of K-facet material, that was a really tempting choice. But I went with this blue. They are all fabrics from Figo, F-I-G-O. Great fabrics. I've really been a fan of that manufacturer for a while. I love just the really delicate floral selection in this, and I am excited because there's the pops of gold and green, and I just think this will be a really fabulous looking quilt when it is all done. But we won't find out until next spring because this is a 10-month project. So each month we will be sewing one clue, and Cotton Cuts offers you, besides like 15 different colorways for these mystery quilts, they offer 2 sizes. So you can do a smaller version or a large version. I'm going with the small Tumbleweed for my mystery quilt just because I don't know where it's going to end up. You know, I've been quilting for many years, and I've got a huge stack of quilts that I try to rotate through on my bed, but I've only got one child and she's well covered in quilts. My brother's family is well covered with quilts. And I just think this small size will make a good possible charity quilt in the future. Someone will be able to cuddle up on the couch or use it on a twin bed or something. I think that'll be fine. So let me go over some of the basics in the Cotton Cuts Mystery Quilt program. They call them Puzzle Mystery Quilts, PMQ. So that's what we'll be focused on. And one of the first things they send you is this swatch booklet. So it's got your colorway this exact photo is what we saw online when we were choosing our fabrics. But they've got all the fabrics listed on the back and they are labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, which is very important to keep track of. So don't lose your swatch booklet. Print it out, keep it handy. Speaking of printing it out, this year or recently, Cotton Cuts decided to put all the clues online. So they're calling it an evidence locker. And you can find those clues. They should have sent you an email with a direct link, but it's cottoncuts.filecamp.com. And that's going to be a great resource. You can get these swatch booklets. So if you happen to misplace it, you can quickly go online and find that reference page. And inside, they've just got a lot of tips and tricks for the mystery quilt. It gives you the mailing dates here. And I know a lot of people have been frustrated because there have been some delays. Cotton Cuts was moving their physical location and their warehouse over the last few weeks, so that delays things. There were some delays from the fabric companies themselves. I know that the Tumbleweed fabrics specifically were delayed, so that was one of the reasons that I'm one of the later fabric enthusiasts, is what they're calling their ambassadors, to get the project. Is some of my friends, Amber and Sean, have already sewn their first clue and they're all done. And I just am looking at it for the first time. So there is a range. And we all know the postal system gets overwhelmed. Things get delayed. They may sit, in a post office somewhere before it actually gets to your house. So pack your patience. We have lots of time. There's no deadline on this. When the fabric shows up, you can have fun sewing along. So I'm so glad that you jumped in with me. But when I got my clue, they were so generous and sent these fun little labels. They're almost a satin embroidered. And so I've got a Wild West label to put on my quilt eventually. And then look at these other fun ones. This is the Cotton Cuts logo, so that will be on all of them. So I've got my Wild West. I've got one that says Stitched with Love, Dream It, Make It, Stitch by Stitch, and a sweet reminder, Look After Me. So reminder for folks to take care of their quilts, which isn't too difficult. We like our quilts to be used. So go out, throw them on the ground, use them for a picnic, wash them. I typically just run my quilts in the dryer for a few minutes and then hang them up or lay them over a chair to finish drying in the fresh air. And then they've got that wonderful crinkly texture and they just become even more cuddly with use and wear. So those were the labels. Let's dive into the kit. You want to look at your clue, whether you are accessing online or printing it out. The first thing that I did with my clue, you can see down here that it's all printed in black and white. So grayscale, you just have to get used to it. And that's where you match up I'm looking where I saved all my papers. You match up your swatch with the fabric. And I put a little notation next to each piece so that I know which fabric. Now, what I have done, and you have to do what makes sense for you. This fabric A, I am calling gold so that all over my pattern, I just write A equals gold, and I've done that in pencil up here. And I've just, you know, picked a word description for each of these colors so that I know which piece is which color as I go along. And I don't have to keep looking back at my pattern and my swatch guard. It's all in one place. So always recommend reading through all of the directions first so you know what's going on. So they give you and I'm challenged with my left and right with the camera here. They give you a piece count. So they tell you how many of each piece are included in your kit. And that is the fabulous thing about these Cotton Cuts kits, is that all of the pieces are pre-cut. So a lot of times if you buy a kit from a fabric store, they will give you a strip or a piece of yardage, like a fat quarter or a third of a yard or something. And you have to cut strips and then subcut all the pieces and double check measurements and make sure that all happens. Not with Cotton Cuts. They send you all of your triangle pieces are pre-cut. And look how pretty that is laid out there. Fun, fun, fun. Now, some of these pieces are a little bit wrinkly. They've got a crease in them from where they were folded to fit in the package. And I'm just kind of roughly easing out those creases with my fingernail. You do not want to use starch if you press these pieces before you sew them, because they are pre-cut to sew exactly with a 1/4 inch seam and fit together. And if you are using starch on your pieces, you could distort those. Starch and sizing sprays will shrink your fabric up a little bit, and you don't want to do that. You want it all to come out exactly right. I've never been a big starcher to begin with. And you know, when I'm on camera, I don't iron. I just finger press. So we're all good in that respect. But I did want to make a note of that for some other folks. So I am going to just do a quick count and make sure that I have my pieces. If it turns out that you do not have a piece that you need, just email Cotton Cuts support. They are very responsive. And again, with the move, with this new Clue evidence locker online platform for getting the information, they may be a little bit slower to respond, but give them a couple days. They'll get back to you. They'll get replacement pieces in the mail to you. I've got 2 of my smaller pieces. Again, I'm calling this gold. I've got squares. I've got 2 cream. Oh no, those are right. Okay. So here is another tip that they mention in the reminders. The grayscale on your pattern does not indicate light or dark fabric. It is just a letter indicator. So make sure because I'm looking at this list thinking that I need a blue square and it's a cream square. So I need to look at the letters and not the shade of gray on my list. So yes, I have all my pieces and they are correct. So we're just going to go step by step through our clue. And I tend to be a visual quilter. When I read patterns, I look at the picture before I read the words. And if I can figure it out from the picture, then I go ahead and do that. I am going to double check my notes of which color is which. And I am making 2 identical blocks for the small size. So we're going to start with our big half square triangles. And I always recommend winding an extra bobbin before you start sewing for the day. That way you can just grab it and go when you need to switch bobbins, which I've already done this morning, getting ready for our sewing session. And like I said, these fabrics were pre-cut and they've got the tips cut off the triangles. So you know you can just line those up and go. I think today I will switch to my 1/4 inch foot. It's got a little bar on it, so that will keep my fabrics lined up, and I won't have to think as hard to keep my pieces lined up. Okay, let me turn the camera a bit so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so now I need my small blue with my small F, and we're going to sew those together. And I chain piece, so I haven't done anything with those pieces that I just sewed yet. Scissors. So here are my big half square triangles, and the pattern says to press to our gold fabric. So even I'm very tempted to press my half square triangle to the dark, but I'm going to follow instructions. They have a plan. They know how it goes together. Okay, so I have my 2 large half square triangles, and it does give you measurements for them if you want to double check. I'm pretty trusting. Okay, so now I need my F square, so I need my 2 of these guys, and we're gonna connect them to what we just sewed. So I need to do my chain piecing trick, and these to the blue. So I'm going to take my triangles and put them on there. So I've gotten to know Sean over at The Guy Who Sews. He is also doing this Wild West mystery quilt. And I have to say, I was really impressed with his video for putting Clue 1 together. He shows all the pieces so clearly. So good job, Sean. Thanks for being such a good example of an ambassador video. And next we're going to sew our gold and floral pieces, A and F. I'm doing a couple things with Cotton Cuts this fall. I obviously am working on the Puzzle Mystery Quilt, Wild West, and I'm also working on the Floral States of America. And I've got an intro video for that with month 1. You get 5 of the state blocks each month. So I have my rectangles here, and we are pretty logically pressing to the square for those. And I mention that when I'm sewing a lot of half square triangles, if I'm using them in a block, I always press towards the fabric that has less seams, so that unit comes together like that. And then with these triangles, we are pressing to the gold. And then I am going to also put these with a floral square, but this time, instead of the accent fabric being on the corner, the accent fabric is kind of between the corner piece and the square. And if it helps, keep your pencil handy and just check off when you have finished a clue or a step in the clue. We aren't done with the whole clue yet. When you are sewing something like this that has a lot of steps, and one step obviously flows right into the next step, and you're only making 1 or 2 units at a time, this is a place where it is very helpful to have a leader ender project, some secondary project that you can feed through. And I save all of my bonus triangles when I'm sewing flying geese units or binding strips. I save all those triangles and just sew them into quarter square triangles. So that's what I'm going to start doing so I can get these units together. So I've got my little fabric triangles, and I'm just sewing down one of the straight edges, not the long diagonal. That would give me half square triangles for pinwheel blocks. And I do that sometimes, but I generally use bigger scraps for that. It's coming together. Oh, seam ripper has to come out. This one looks like the previous step. It's supposed to look like this. So when these components don't match, this is correct. So I'll set that aside. I need to rip this one out. And I know you got to keep Jack handy. Okay, so I've got that in the correct place. Okay, we are on to step 6. 3 and 5 come together. So these 2 rectangle units that I have made, and we put the, okay, whoa, yeah, that's right. Our triangles go in different directions. That's pretty unusual and keeps that mystery going, but you can see with our pressing that seams will nest right there. And I'm just deciding which way to feed it under my needle. I realized I didn't even press or pin that seam for my 4 patch. Let's hope it turned out okay. And with these busy prints, it did. My points meet pretty well there in the center. And they say press towards this corner, so we will let that not spin. Okay, and now we are going to join that with our big one. And again, we want to make sure our fabrics are in the right place, get that seam going the right direction. And again, we're taking this piece and whoops, let's see. There we go. Goes this direction because we want this seam along the gold to parallel the little diagonal on the gold. So we can see that those two gold units are in the same direction. And that is what it looks like. We are actually, you know, I want to press to that big, nice straight seam, but they want it to go. We're going to use this pretty cream. That's such a pretty neutral. It's just kind of scratches. Okay, and again, we are pressing towards our D fabric, which in my case is the lighter one. So it goes against everything I'm taught as a quilter, but you do what the pattern says most of the time. And I want to join that, keeping the cream in the bottom. I'm going to sew it to a plain gold square. No, I am sewing the cream to a cream square. Again, read your pattern. Let's make sure our diagonal is going in the direction that the pattern tells us, and we're going to match that up to a cream square. And we're making 2 of those. So. Okay, and then we are going to take this rectangle that we just made after I press to the square. So I have this rectangle and it is being sewn to another pre-cut rectangle. So I'm going to line those up just like that and sew them together. Okay, and now we are going to make some fun tricolor triangles. I'm going to take my cream fabric, my gold square, and my floral fabric and make a triangle out of those units. So and so like I said, I am adding that piece right here. And I am actually, when I put those pieces right sides together, I'm going to lay that down with this triangle on the bottom because I want to be able to see that seam and make sure I don't get it flipped against the stitches. So I will do it that way, and then this one presses to the square. So it sounds like they were sewing that the same way. And there we have our triangle. And we are taking this tricolor triangle and sewing it to the last piece of fabric we have, which is our large blue triangle. So let me get those lined up. Again, with pre-cut pieces, it's very nice and easy to get things lined up. There we go. And finally, pressing that makes sense. I'm going to press to my solid triangle. And then this piece, the gold fabrics match up to make our other unit. And those seams do nest, and this time I will remember to put a pin in to keep things lined up. Second unit, since we're making 2 blocks. And again, I'm doing the small version of Tumbleweed for the Cotton Cuts Mystery Quilt. Totally enjoying clue number 1 here. Okay, so we have that done, and we are going to press towards our cream. Oh gosh, that's looking so good. Press towards that cream fabric, and then one last step is to join our 2 rectangles together, and my F's are the floral, so they go like that, and then that one at the bottom. Okay, and you never know where this final block is going to end up in the finished quilt. So let me get this last seam sewn, and we will have the big reveal of clue number 1 of the Wild West mystery. Oops, had a pin in there. I can't do a big reveal if there's a pin right in the center. Ta-da! That is clue number 1. I love seeing these 3 triangles. The flying geese go straight across the block, and then you've got the accent of the other floral print. Oh, I'm loving this. This is going to be really nice. So I've gotten my first clue done for Tumbleweed. So I will set all those things aside. Just to prove I got it all done. Here are my two blocks. So you can see we might be putting these 2 blocks together to have those parallels. You know, they may be a corner section. They could be a center section. Rotating around, there's lots and lots of choices for those blocks. So we will take our 2 blocks, and you always want to keep your block of the month projects organized and in a central location. So I am taking all of my Tumbleweeds items, and I have a special project bag that I will keep those all collected month to month so that I don't have to scramble at the end of the year to find things. Cotton Cuts has such great kits with pre-cut pieces. Check out this video where I share another project, Floral States of America from Cotton Cuts.